Hi, my name is April Foster, and this is God's Mighty Hand, Lesson 8. All right, so we'll start as usual with a word of prayer, go into Bible facts and memory work, then we will do our lesson, and then at the end, if there's time, we'll do our activities. All right, so this week, the lesson is pretty full, and there's a lot of map work to do. You have the narrative, which will be very helpful this week because we're in lots of different places, and then you also have, equally helpful, is the map with all of these places labeled on it. And so we ended last lesson as the Israelites left Pi-Hahiroth on the west side, crossed the Red Sea, most likely at this point, over to Marah. And we'll explain that we're not exactly sure where Marah is, but this is where we believe Marah to be because there is water there. There's a picture of where we believe Marah to be. This is actually a modern day picture. And what I like about using modern day pictures in the lesson is that kids can realize that these are real stories that happened at real places, and the more they realize that, the more that word will shape their heart. So, all right, so we're at Marah, and the water is bitter, and so this is where your story cards and your visual aids take off. And so God told Moses to do something unique after the people were grumbling and complaining, of course, and that was to throw a tree into the water. And when he did, the water turned sweet because the waters were bitter at Marah. And God told the people how important it was to obey him. Next, they traveled to Elim. And so you'll see that we're questioning exactly where Elim is, but it's somewhere down in the Sinai Peninsula. And you can even talk about what a peninsula is. It's an area of land that has water on three sides. And that way they can start understanding why we're calling that whole area the Sinai Peninsula. They also had been out of Egypt only 1 month, which was not very long. And again, they are complaining at Elim. And at Elim, let's see, at Elim, they had 12 wells of water and 70 palm trees, but now instead of complaining about water, they're complaining about what to eat. And so God tells Moses that he's going to provide food. So he provides manna in the morning and quail in the evening. And here in the lesson, you'll go through the instructions of what was going to happen with the quail and manna if they didn't collect it or if they collected too much. And then also a little bit more about what manna might have been. You have a picture of coriander seed because that's what the reference is in scripture, along with it tasting like a sweet wafer. And then you'll have the visual too of if they collected too much manna, that it turned to the worms came and ate it. All right, now the people had left this area and had gone down to Rephidim. And in Rephidim, people, what do you know, they were complaining again. And so this time the people were complaining, give us water. And even though God is taking care of them, and God told Moses to hit the rock. So you have that visual here, this is the first time he's told to hit the rock, and he obeys that command. All right, so the story cards, the activities this week, we have quite a few. We have a map worksheet, and similar to last week, you can have them relabel the areas that they camped in as they left Egypt, from Ramses on down to where we end today in Rephidim. And you can have them do that while you're going through the lesson narrative, or you can have them do it at the end. We will probably do it as we go along. The other fun activity you have is a review game. And so you have all the review questions here and answers. And I usually just cut these apart and put them in a little Ziploc bag. And then for class, I'll let them draw them out of a little sack. And so in this lesson, you have 3 options of what you're going to draw. You're either going to draw a quail, a wafer of manna, or a stew pot or a basket with worms in it that indicates the manna had turned bad. All right, so the way the game works is you'll ask a question, and then when they answer the question, if they choose, you'll assign them each team's either team quail or team manna. And so whoever answers the question, if they draw a quail, 1 point goes to team quail. If they draw a manna, it goes to team manna. If they draw a pot of stew, they lose a point, whoever drew the pot of stew. All right, then for the younger kids, I don't like to include too many crafts because I don't want the whole entire lesson to be about assembling a craft, so this one is pretty quick and easy. If you have these little baskets pre-cut, they're just come on a single 8.5 by 11 sheet that you can cut. You can tape them together in class. I've just kept these cut really big to put my quail in there for what God sent at night. And then what God sent during the day was the manna, and that just gives them a little visual to take home and remember for those younger levels, levels 1 and 2. All right, and so that wraps, oh, wait, there is actually one more activity, and that is water from a rock. So let me grab that real quick. Okay, and then the last activity, which is also for the younger kids, younger levels, is Moses hitting the rock and water coming forth. So you'll have each of these, and these print through to a sheet so to conserve ink. You'll hole punch it right here near the hole, and then you'll take Moses here. I like to have them pre-cut so we don't spend a lot of time in class cutting, and you'll position him next to let the kids glue it on there. And then you'll feed a piece of tissue paper, and then I've just cut the ends to kind of look like a waterfall or a stream coming out, and you'll just feed that through the hole. You can tape it on the back if you'd like, but that's kind of a visual of what it'll look like, the water gushing from the rock that Moses has struck. And so that is the last activity for the younger kids on lesson number 8.